I would have done it otherwise. No worries.
Thank you. Welcome, welcome, welcome in tonight. Hi, Regina from Santa Rosa. Welcome. Wendy Gladney from Upland. Cassandra James from Alejo. Keisha from Signal Hill. Thank you so much for joining. People are coming in. Welcome, welcome. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining. I know people are still coming in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are going to go ahead and get started with tonight's Restful Resistance session. As you know, this is our virtual series for Black women to recharge, reclaim, and rebuild political power. This episode, this session is called Building Local Power, and focuses on how power grows where you are rooted. I am going to again, welcome. Thank you for joining tonight's call. We are super excited to have you here. We have a great lineup of leadership in the room, and we are just super excited to get started so that you can get your Monday night back and continue to have a great week ahead. So again, if you are just joining, we want to know who's here, who's in the room. If you can please just put your name or your city in the chat and your state. If you are outside of California, we want to know that as well. You can just drop that there. That will be amazing. And then just to go over the agenda for tonight. So we are going to, of course, we love to start with our encouragement session. We will be in session with Wendy Gladney for our Pouring to Your Sister segment. Then we have a fireside chat with an amazing panel as well. And that chat is focused on reclaiming influence where decisions are made closest to home. After that, we'll have a space for question and answers. And then we always like to end on a joyful note. So we'll have a quick joy practice and then some announcements and closing. Pouring to Your Sister. Meet Wendy. Wendy Gladney, is known as the Purpose Partner. She is a coach, life strategist, author, and founder of Season of Greatness. With nearly 30 years of experience, she helps individuals and communities turn life challenges into purpose-driven growth. And for this Restful Resistance, she's going to lead our Pouring to Your Sister segment, creating a space for reflection, healing, and encouragement, rooted in forgiveness, self-care, and personal transformation. Wendy Gladney is a UCLA graduate and certified coach through the International Coaching Federation. She blends her professional experience with her lived experience to uplift others. Wendy is also a weekly columnist for the LA Sentinel and the Inland Valley News. She often writes on healing and resilience. She is deeply committed to faith, family, and community, and lives by her motto, healing without hate. It's a choice, it's a lifestyle, pass it on. So without further ado, I am going to bring Wendy Gladney to the screen.
Thank you so much. I want to thank Kelly, Karina, and the entire California Black Women Collective team for inviting me to share tonight. I have actually been part of the collective for several years, and I am deeply honored to be able to present to each and every one of you because you are women who are shaping conversations, you're shaping systems, shaping policy, shaping futures, and ultimately shaping the lives of Black women and girls, not only across California, but across the globe. As we know, the collective is committed to ensure that Black women and girls not only survive, but thrive in this sacred work. 27 years ago, I also founded an organization called Forgiving for Living, and we too are committed to uplifting the lives of girls and women. So we see you and we stand with you. Most of us may be familiar with the term Restful Resistance, which is a social justice framework and movement largely championed by Tricia Hershey of the NAP Ministry, which asserts that taking rest is a radical act of rebellion against capitalism, white supremacy, and grind culture. It shares that slowing down and healing from burnout disrupts systems that treat human bodies as machines for production. Basically, ladies, it is okay to rest when you feel tired because we are not machines. And I encourage you, don't get weary in your well-doing, but rest when you must. So tonight, I'm going to share with you briefly what I'm calling power, pause, and strategic grace, leading while sustaining ourselves. For us to continue to do sacred work, it requires sustained power. Power without restoration becomes depletion. Leadership without reflection becomes exhaustion. And service without sustainability just becomes sacrifice. And we know that we are more than just sacrifice. All of us on this call are about power building. But remember, power building is not just external, it's also internal. When we hear the phrase power building, we often think about numbers, influence, policy wins, or institutional change. But true power begins inside of us, within. Power is clarity about who you are. Power is alignment with knowing your purpose. And power is the ability to stand firm when our circumstances begin to shift. In my work as the purpose partner, I support women at crossroads, those moments when life, leadership, loss, or transition begins to force us to ask the questions, what now? Who am I becoming? And where do I go from here? We know that every leader reaches crossroads at some time in their life, sometimes privately while publicly appearing strong. Crossroads are not signs of weaknesses. They are actually invitations for transformation. And if navigated well, they become the birthplace of unshakable leadership. So let's look at the power of pause. In a culture that rewards constant productivity, pausing can feel counterintuitive, even irresponsible. But when we pause, we're not quitting because pause is intelligence. Pause is strategy. And pause is the space where wisdom catches up with activity. Many leaders are intentionally taking sabbaticals now. You know why? Because they know it's so important to refresh and regroup. I ask you, have you thought about taking a sabbatical? I actually had to take one last year when I faced a life-threatening surgery that said, Wendy, you got to stop and reflect. You got to pause. You got to sit down. And so for Black women especially, who often carry professional roles, family responsibilities, community expectations, and cultural pressures simultaneously, pausing can feel like a luxury that we cannot afford. But take it from me, self-care, taking a pause, could be the best thing that you ever do for yourself. Because the truth is, if we do not pause intentionally, life will pause us involuntarily through burnout, through illness, through crisis, and sometimes just pure exhaustion. Reflection allows us to ask ourselves, what is really working in our lives? What is draining me? What needs to change? And what season am I really in right now? Because leadership that ignores seasons eventually breaks under pressure. Let's turn our attention to self-care. Just know it is not selfish, it is strategic. Self-care has become a buzzword, often reduced to what some people think are just spa days and candles. Yes, we like spa days and candles, but for leaders doing hard work, self-care is not about indulgence. It's about capacity. Self-care is how we protect our ability to continue to show up. It includes our physical care, emotional, mental, and spiritual care. Without these, even the strongest leaders can become brittle, and brittle leadership shatters under sustained ongoing pressure. When Black women care for themselves, we are not stepping away from the work. We are preserving our ability to continue to do the work. One of my purpose partner pillars is all about becoming unshakable in challenging moments. We all know we are living in a time of uncertainty, tension, and rapid change. Policy landscapes are shifting, resources are fluctuating, and communities are facing increasing strain. Unshakable leadership does not mean we never feel fear or grief or frustration. It means those emotions do not determine our direction because we know our course. To be unshakable is to be anchored in our values, in our purpose, and in our identity. It means we can bend without breaking, adapt without abandoning ourselves, persist without hardening our hearts. And that resilience is not accidental. It is built intentionally through reflection, support, and alignment. After all, we are standing on the shoulders of many women who came before us that modeled what being unshakable looks like. Do we need to do a roll call? Feel free to put a name of a woman in the chat box who you know has modeled being unshakable in your life. I also often talk about strategic grace, which is what I call power with humanity. Strategic grace is strength expressed through wisdom. It is leading with conviction while maintaining your compassion, setting boundaries without losing empathy, speaking truth without losing dignity, and holding power without becoming hard. In challenging moments, strategic grace allows us to ask, how do I respond in a way that moves us forward, not just releases frustration? How do I protect my energy while remaining engaged? How do I lead with both courage and humanity? Grace without strategy can be ineffective, and strategy without grace can be harmful. But together, they create sustainable leadership. Let's look at sustaining ourselves while rebuilding the future. The work we are doing, research, advocacy, policy, community change, this is not short-term work. This is generational work, which means it requires leaders who can endure and stay on the journey. We do not need burned out sheroes. We need sustained stewards. Women who know when to push and when to rest, when to speak and when to listen, when to act and when to reflect, because thriving communities require thriving leaders. So in closing, I want to leave you with a question. Where in your life or leadership do you need to pause, recalibrate, and replenish your power? Ladies, remember, Black women have always been architects of survival and engines of progress. But survival is not our goal. Thriving is. And thriving requires power that is renewed, leadership that is reflective, and grace that is strategic. Pause when you need it. Care for yourselves intentionally. Build power internally as well as externally. Become unshakable in your purpose and lead with strategic grace. Because when Black women are sustained, communities are truly transformed. Thank you again, and God bless you.
Thank you so much, Wendy. That was amazing. One thing that I do know that I just want to piggyback on is when you talked about thriving, not only surviving. That's a message that we put out in our communications a lot of that. For Black women, we know how to survive, but we want to take it a step further and thrive. So, and I also love the, we don't need burnt out sheroes, we need sustainable stewards. So that has definitely been my takeaway. I want to thank you again for pouring into us, and may God be with you and continue to bless you in your endeavors of just spreading cheer and supportiveness among communities.
Thank you. Can I just give a quick shout out to Mayor Warren, because she's out here in my community. Hi, Mayor Warren.
Perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So we are going to keep this going right along. And It's time for our fireside chat. Reclaiming influence where decisions are made close to home. We are going to be honored to have, as Wendy pointed out, Mayor Acquanetta Warren join us. We're going to have Supervisor Cassandra James join us, and Dr. Colette Harris-Mathews is going to also join us. And this session is going to be moderated by our President and CEO, Kellie Todd Griffin, and I am just going to bring everyone up to the stage. See here. Let me stop presenting.
While Karina is bringing everybody up, I just wanted to say welcome, welcome, welcome. Hope everyone is having a wonderful President's Day today. And we want to thank you guys for joining us on, especially if today was your day off. We really appreciate it, particularly our panelists. I loved what Wendy was saying to set the tone of this conversation. Last night, it was actually early this morning, I got a text message from Supervisor Holly Mitchell. It was like at 1:30 because she knows I'm up. And it was a clip of the former mayor of Atlanta, Keisha, Keisha Bottoms, right? And she said there was a difference between being a strong woman and a powerful woman. A strong woman keeps going regardless of anything, powers through, and that woman has high blood pressure, has diabetes, and ends up, passing away. A powerful woman is a woman who takes a pause, reassesses, decides when to emerge back, so that they are in the best mental and physical space. And she said to the women who she was speaking to, links, I don't know about you, but I would rather be a powerful woman than a strong woman. And I think that is, just a testament. So we were like texting each other going, I'm reclaiming my power. I've got to reclaim this power back, because being strong is going to take us all out. So today, I'm so grateful to have these three phenomenal local leaders with us. We oftentimes hear about our state leaders and our congressional members, but politics is local. The way you experience your life every single day is because of these women. If you got potholes, stop signs you need, all that stuff, that's that. If you got, that's local. If you have your kids in school and you want to know what's going on and what's happening, that's local. Although, things may pass through federal and all things may pass through the state, the way you experience California is because of these three ladies right here. So I want to thank them for joining us. Today, I'm very excited to have this conversation. Our February series is Reclaiming Influence Where Decisions Are Made, which is local, local, local. So I'm going to start with one of our original members of the California Black Women's Collective, Dr. Colette, because when Dr. Colette first started this journey, actually Dr. Colette and I go a little further back, trying to help young girls deal with some of their anger and pain and trauma that they were experiencing in Sacramento. Excuse me. So Dr. Colette, when you think back, what was the moment you realized you can influence change where you are?
Thank you for the question, and I'm excited for this evening. Yes, today has been a day. I've been at Disney on Ice with kids today, and they were excited about being there. And I was like, okay, this is what Gigi has to do today. But I'm excited to be in the room, and I'm excited to be in part of this panel. And Wendy, you just really set the tone in what you were saying, and realizing your power in that moment. And I'm gonna go way back because I think when I was in kindergarten, I recall a very powerful conversation. I show people my kindergarten picture and my preschool picture because I say, guess which one is me? And it's really obvious because I'm the only Black child in the room. But I grew up in such a way that I understood this is what we have to do. And even then, a little girl came up to me and said, "You are Black. Look at the crayon and you are Black." And I was like, I'm brown. I know my colors, but that was a moment that I realized my power to transform even kindergarten in that space, and what education could do in a kindergarten room. But I fought the system of being told what I couldn't do either in terms of what I saw. And I know people think, 5-year-olds aren't cognizant of what's going on, but they really are. That is the most powerful, the transitional kindergarten and K through 12 spaces as where we see foundationally that we can make a difference. But then when we talk about power, early in my career, when I graduated from college, again, I've been in a lot of predominantly white spaces. And in that, when predominantly white spaces attempt to create your identity, you must know, you may not have the words at the time, but you know that there's something there. I worked in staffing where I provided people jobs in Sacramento. And so I worked for, they were called staffing services. There are not a whole lot of them left, but I worked for Manpower, which they would never be called Manpower anymore, called People Power. But I was in France this past summer and saw a Manpower office. And so it took me back to my roots of knowing that here's places where you can place people. There was a law firm that they always would say, we're looking for Vanna White. And I said, I'm gonna bring Vanna Black to this law firm that, what you're looking for is a receptionist that's friendly and someone who can create space. You're not looking for Vanna White. Even when they said that, and they said that to me, and I would just be over the phone speaking to them. So, I say to the 37 plus people who are in this room right now is that you have to realize where your power comes from, and the resistance that that we must always be in that space, and you have to know why you're in that space. That's why I started talking about, I may not have had the words when I was younger, but I've gained the words as I've gone on. And then in the classroom, I've always loved school. I used to make my friends play school with me, and so even now, I don't play school, but something happened just in the last few months that I won't talk about in this answer, but I'll talk about in a little bit. But in the classroom, again, I started out as a graduate assistant teaching associate. I went back to graduate school after working in the private sector for more than 12 years. And they asked me to teach, and I wasn't really looking to, teach at Sac State or in the university setting, because they didn't pay me nothing. They paid me really what I called gas money at the time. So I've always been an advocate for making sure that people are compensated in a way. I always knew that academics weren't paid what they should be paid, but we're always fighting for that. But, the moment that I realized that change could occur goes back, but it also says every space that I've been in, and I am a person of faith like Wendy. I believe that God has placed me in every situation, whether it was when I was a graduate assistant to a teaching associate, and then to a lecturer, and then also as an adjunct faculty member in community colleges. And I spent 20 years of my experience in community college and retired in 2020. And then now serve as an elected trustee. And I will tell you, Kellie, that I never anticipated being an elected official, but after I retired, we were still doing the work, through BWAPA, through the Black Women's Collective. And I was learning a lot, and being asked to do a lot, but also I'm learning to rest in things too, because I have to tell people I am semi-retired, but only in retirement, it means that you have something else that you need to do and you can focus on that in a particular way. So I'll leave, that initial question there, but you have to realize your power in each space. And I walk you through of knowing when I was in kindergarten, I didn't quite get it. But then as I came along, I was like, that ain't right. And I use that word, that ain't right, to that isn't right, to this is what we're going to do to make it right for folks. And that you may not know how to execute it. We'll get to that question in a bit, but you may not know how to execute it in that moment. But God has placed you there. God has placed you in a situation where you can make a difference, and you have to be able to recognize it. And even if you don't have the words, is recognize there's something that is an inertia to make you move.
Hold on. Mayor Warren, it is so wonderful to meet you finally. I have been following you for years. I used to live in the Inland Empire. And you were in our Respect My Crown documentary. And so thank you for joining us today. You've led Fontana for a long time. And when I lived out in the Inland Empire, I lived in Rialto, right on the border of Fontana when I was in junior high school. So you would look to the left and there was nothing to the left. And now you go to Fontana and it has grown tremendously, and you have ushered in that change through building partnerships across everything from the education system, from the workforce, the community systems. What has that taught you about real change and how, being at the table could make such a huge impact, and how communities are designed, built, and how, we can have a place at the table to make it happen?
Strategy. And by the way, it's an honor finally to meet you also. A lot of you on this call, I've heard of you through the years. I've just been having my head down to the ground trying to get it done. And everybody thinks I'm a social butterfly, but actually I'm not. I'm in my bedroom right now, and I consider it my little chapel. I got my fireplace and my chair I love the most, and my big teddy bear. And it just, when you were talking, Wendy, you brought tears to my eyes because, I just think about what my mother used to tell me. She said, you can fight, you can run, you can do all those things. But if you don't take care of God's temple he gave you, you are going nowhere. And about 3 years ago, I figured that out. And now I just came from working out. And I mean, my trainer gave me no respect, despite the fact that I told him I need to be on a call in about an hour. Let's let up a little bit.
Right.
But for me, it's always been about how it affects me and my family. I grew up during the civil rights. I'll be 70 in July, and I'm proud of that because I grew up in South Central, 2 blocks out of Watts, and I could have went street or smart. I had to stay in that S range though, but I decided to do both. And so I took my street sense and I used it at the boardroom. I was one of the first African Americans that was bused for LA Unified to integrate LA Unified School District. Can you even believe that ever was an issue? And I learned then, I started hanging around with white people, all kinds of people. I was at Dana Junior High School, and I got an opportunity to meet so many different people. And that made me love people more. But I got to tell you, my church, that's what showed me power. I was bullied at that time. We didn't know it was bullying, but I would fight and I would get people off of me. But the pastor told me one time, he said, I'm gonna give you a job. I'm gonna have you do the announcements at church. And that put power in my hand, because if I didn't like you, your announcement got forgotten. Ooh, hello. And so it taught me also how vulnerable people can be. And then I started looking around my community and on that bus and seeing those nice neighborhoods and nice trees. And I said, what's up with my hood? Why aren't we doing those things? But we banded together on that bus. I had Eddie Murray, the baseball player. Raveline Griffin was on that bus with me. And I could go down the list of people that was on that bus that went on to be giant heroes. So for me, I always read every regulation. The teachers would tell me, you can't do this, you can't do that. I go get the standards and I would read them. I said, oh yeah, I can. And I still do that today. Our legal team gets really mad at me sometimes because I read my own stuff. I write my own articles. I do my outlines. I do my own research. I love my staff, but they know that I've already checked it out. And it has to happen that way because nobody's going to care more about you than anybody but yourself. But I lived in Compton when I was married, and I was fighting with everybody because the education was bad. All of us were African American. All of us were Democrats, and the place looked like crap, and the education was bad. And I just couldn't take it anymore. And so I started fighting with the parents in terms of getting them mobilized. And that's springboarded me in my adult life. But before that, I was student body president practically every school I ever went to. I was in the secretary in the 4th grade because they would not stop the upper grades from licking the brown sugar off of the LA Unified coffee cake. Those of you that ever went to LA Unified, that coffee cake is famous.
That coffee cake.
Remember that coffee cake? And those upper grades, 5th and 6th, would lick the brown sugar off. And I led a rebellion. I wanted the student body president, but I wasn't old enough. So I made a deal with my pastor not to be it and be the secretary. But for moving from Compton to Fontana, I told my ex, I'm going to sit on the pews. I'm not going to do anything. 1 week, he worked nights. He said, don't get involved in nothing. We barely got out of Compton alive because I was raising hell everywhere. And so basically, before I left Compton, though, when I mentioned party, and let me tell you, we're in a nonpartisan position. That's why things get done. We're not in Congress. We're not in Senate. We don't have to lick nobody's party, nothing. We have to do what the people need us to do. But I saw in Compton no competition, so I turned Republican. Man, all hell broke loose. And I started mobilizing in that atmosphere. And that atmosphere helped me with my jobs because, I was part of the old boys team. We got to take care of her. So I went up the ladder in banking. But all of that led me to hurt whenever I would come home. Moving to Fontana, I promised I wouldn't get involved. But the first week I was there, they started coming after our landscape maintenance district fees. My friends came around the corner and said, we got to fight. They're going to run our thing. I had barely qualified for my house. I said, I'm not having this. That started it. I got those residents together. I worked with the now former mayor, Mark Noemi, and I didn't want to be the one in the meeting talking. I was sending him notes. And finally, Greg Devereaux, because I, at that time, been consulting for the city of Upland, and I retired Deputy Public Works Director in Upland. There's another opportunity where they told me a woman can't do that job. Not only could I do the job, I made it to Deputy Public Works Director. I was in charge of all the maintenance for all the streets. So I used all those experiences to bring what you now see, Mayor Fontana. And so we fought, and I had a name for myself at that point. And I just stayed steady. I wouldn't let the council get off on nothing. I'd be at the meetings talking crap. I'd come all the time. There's 3,600 households where I live, Village of Heritage in Fontana. And I told them, I come today as one, but I can bring 500 people up here next week if I don't get my stop sign. So when it came to the appointment, I didn't think I had a snowball chance in hell. They had never had an African-American on that council. And I went for it. I wrote my speech. I worked with my neighbors. They lobbied for me. And when I got appointed, history has been made. And running for mayor, it was the worst race ever. I'm sure those of you that lived in this area remember they came up to me for being Black, female, single or divorced with children. And on top of that, Republican. And I won that mayoral seat. And I'm running again. I'm in my 4th term. But power and strength, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You hit it on the nail. But this is the issue. If you don't have empathy for people and you can't be kind and people don't like you, you can't help anybody. So that means you have to have faith You have to act like God tells us to, and that is to help each other. You put that in that formula, you off to the races. Off to
Agreed.
the races.
Agreed. And we're, you know, as you know, we're a nonprofit. So we're not Democrat or Republican on this call. We are nonprofit on this.
Right.
So
That's why you're getting things done.
that's why. But it's so funny you say that. I'm a commissioner on public works in Carson. And
Whoa. Good mayor over there.
right. I went over to the South Side where I grew up in Carson, and nobody was doing nothing there. And I kept complaining. And then I said, I told the city council, put me on the Public Works Commission, because I grew up there. I may live on the North Side today, but I grew up on the South Side, and you cannot ignore that South Side just because they work in 2-3 jobs and can't show up at city council.
Amen.
You just can't do that. And so and I'm the only female on there, and everybody that works for them are all males except the secretary, is what they call her, is the administrative secretary is what they call her. And so it's like, it's a fight with the dudes around, you know, stuff that they believe is dude talk. And I go in right with my little data, because I believe you trust in God and everything else need data. So I be all up in them. They hate to see me walk in. They be like, oh God, she made the meeting. She made the meeting. So Cassandra, speaking of that, because you know, you and I have had a lot of conversations about Solano County and Vallejo specifically, which is your supervisory district. And you guys have taught me a lot about Vallejo and the history of Vallejo, and how Vallejo was a pass-through and underdeveloped and all kinds of things. And you're a young leader. When you said, I'm going to run for supervisor, and there was already a Black woman supervisor. So here it was like, well, there's a Black woman supervisor. Surely they're not going to put 2 Black women on the board of supervisors. Surely that's not going to happen. And I be dang, Black women rally. We stood strong. Everybody was there. We were writing checks. We were calling friends and family. And there you stand with the only county in the state of California with 2 Black women supervisors. And as you like to say, that you guys have the largest per capita, right? Per capita Black population. I say population to percentages. So than any other county in the state. So that's why it happened. But when we think about that, and learning about leadership, which the supervisors carry a lot of weight in the county. What's the most emotionally demanding part of leading at a local level that you have found? And then what keeps you grounded besides that beautiful baby boy?
Thank you for that. And I just want to say, you will see, as a working mother, you will see a 5-year-old in the back, and hopefully he keeps his clothes on during the call. This is what it's about with the authentic leadership. And we became one of the Blackest counties per capita due to displacement. So I'm a displaced San Franciscan. I'm born and raised Hunters Point, which was a historically Black neighborhood through shipbuilding, the Hunters Point Naval Shipyard, and then ended up moving out here about 15 years ago. But I would say the most emotionally demanding part of leading at a local level has been learning how to be fully human while holding a very public role. And like this, I just completed my first year. So I'm like a year and change in right now. And in my 3rd month in office, my grandmother had transitioned. So at that same time, I was voting on like policies, meeting with constituents, and being really aggressive with my priorities as the fourth Black person ever to be elected to this original county board. And knowing that I was being viewed with a different lens of scrutiny, but I still had to execute her final wishes and helping my boys understand like what loss meant. And there was no pause button. Government continued, the community continued, the emails and the calls continued. And what's heavy is that people still need so much from you. And they do deserve the compassion and the responsiveness and leadership. But sometimes that needs to come without the recognition that I'm also grieving, I'm parenting, I'm partnering, and I'm living in the real time. And leadership can create the illusion that you're only an office and not a person. So, and navigating that tension between like public responsibility, but private humanity, like has been like the most emotional part and hardest part for me. But what keeps me grounded is I'm not doing this alone. I'm protected by my ancestors and I carry my grandmother's prayers with me. I'm living a life that she dreamed of, and the perspective like that reframes that perspective of the pressure, right? Because she, before she passed, she said, like, I would never thought somebody in my lineage would run for public office. And she was faithful where she called her friends every first and third of the month because their social security check came in and said, y'all need to donate $25 to my granddaughter's campaign. So like she was really serious about that. So it reminds me that this work is legacy and it's not ego. Also, I hear all y'all Southern California folks on the call. My husband is from Compton, California, the 1200 block. So, but he loves on me in ways that restores me, and he forces me to sit with the full conversation. So even when I want to react, even when like I have this tension between like, y'all know I grew up a different kind of way, but I'm trying to stay professional in this. He reminds me, to widen my lens. Also, my boys keep me really honest. They don't care about government. They just know what's right and what's wrong, and they truly could care less about the title. So to them, I'm just simply like, Mom, I need to give me something to eat. Mom, you need to take me to school. And that really helps me to clarify like who I am, because the work that we're doing is for a community, but it's also for the future, right? It's for the kids that we may never meet. And then I would say, lastly, like my village, they do more than encourage me. In my village, like full of women, but particularly the Black women that hold me accountable to rest. They have taken away my phone. They have put me on timeout and told me to sit down. And they reminded me that I'm their flower just as much as they are my flower, and that I'm rooted in a larger love system. And if I'm not okay, that they're not okay. So it also, like, just in closing, leadership is not about appearing like invincible, to like what Miss Wendy was saying earlier. It's about being whole. And it's about honoring the people who poured into you while pouring into community. And again, like, and I can't lose myself in this role, like, and I'll lose the very reason why I came to wanting to run for office. And like you said, like we would have never thought they would let two Black women on the same dais, let alone like when I kicked off the campaign, I was out fundraised 4-1, but I had to really dig deep into community and being my authentic self. And in the Bay Area, some of my favorite philosophers, the Loonies, they have a song, Do You Have 5 on it? So we kept it really rooted in community and asking, do you have 5 on it? And getting people who've never participated, didn't even understand what county government is, to donate $5 and $7. So I think that, but that's really like what makes this so emotional, because I know that I take all those folks with me in these rooms.
I love that. I really, really love that. And again, I watched your journey from launch all the way to election night. And what I saw was a coalition of Black women that locked arms. And in that same election, first Black woman to become a city council. Not right. Tanya was first Black woman from Vallejo.
the second Black woman. It was 30 years since you
30
saw
years.
a woman on Vallejo City Council. So when she was inaugurated, she became the second Black woman in Vallejo City Council. And this is the state's first capital. I just want to put context to that.
Yes, yes. So I mean, the only level of government that they don't have a Black woman in Solano is congressional, and I've been working on that. Just somebody's being a little stubborn about it. Anyway, I'm gonna send her this link. Colette, going back to you, like Sacramento has a similar makeup as Solano. You guys are double-digit Black population, very few counties, even LA. We may have more in numbers, but when we talk about percentages, that's really what matters in terms of results and votes. And you guys are almost the opposite. You have very few Black women in key elected roles in Sacramento. How do you guys coalesce your power base in Sacramento to make sure your voices are heard?
Well, I will say that, when I retired from Los Rios, one of the things about academic spaces is that they say you can't openly be political, but to me, you have to understand that politics is just making decisions in a group and moving forward. So everything is political. And I try to teach people that everything is political because that's how they knock you off your political power. The arguments of why not be political have long been governed. And so our unions and, collective bargaining agreements really have said, be political. And so coalescing, when I ran for the Los Rios Board of Trustees, Flojan Coffer was running for mayor. Kamala Harris obviously was running for president. I was told openly, don't run. I had been through Emerge California, and at the end they have a capstone project, and they thought that I had got off the call, and they were saying she doesn't know what she's doing, and I say, well, you know what? I've got
Warren space. She like, what?
Well, you know what? It's okay because I prefer people tell me things to my face. Because I had already decided that this is what I was going to do. The person who has sat in the seat had sat there for 25 years, and Pam Haynes is still on the Board of Governors for Community College. And I acknowledge her in terms of we have to look at who has gone before us and set the tone. But I just came from Washington, D.C., where I'm the rep for the Association for Community College Trustees and for Los Rios. And there were 1,300 people, and the Black women in the room. Compton College, Acquanetta and Cassandra, Compton College is in the mix. What Keith Curry is doing down in Compton is a master class for community colleges across the state and across the nation. And so when we talk about what's happening in Sacramento, the fourth largest economy, we are the fourth largest economy and we're the capital. That's why when I introduce myself, usually I say Sacramento, California, the capital of, the capital of California, and coalescing, but simply speaking is understanding what our win numbers are. So, I stood in a Black church and I was there with Flo. And I said, if every Black person in Sacramento votes for Flojan Coffer, she still cannot win. And so we got to get out and go in places where we're not always invited. And that's why it just takes coalition and it takes strategy, and that we have to always have a strategy and be willing to pivot. So when people tell you you can't do something, this is what you can do. Like my campaign was $50,000. And I don't have $50,000. It's harder for Black women to raise money to run for political office, but we do it anyway. Like you're saying, asking for $5, asking for $7, making something look bigger than what it is. And also getting out there, understanding our ground game is real. We always have to have a ground game. We cannot just declare and just sit back and say, this is what we do. But in Sacramento, there's this thing, because I just experienced it in Washington, D.C. And it's when we allow others to think that they are in control of what we are. Like Los Rios Community College District is the second largest community college district in California. The California Community College system is the largest community college system in the nation. And so understanding that kind of power, for the last 30 years, we've had two white men who are running, the community college system. And so it's the women. I'll be down in LA, and there's a group of Black women who are just emerging as college presidents. But it also depends on trustees, because we approve the policies for, and we have one person that we hire, which is the chancellor. And Sacramento we just hired a trustee who is an African-American man, Dr. Torrance Powell, who's coming from Napa Valley College. And so we're excited about that, but that is understanding strategy, but it's understanding that when people say they're going to run, I have a number of people who tell me that they're going to run, and they're like, well, I can't do this because of this, I can't do that. And so, Cassandra, when you were talking about having children, I have a friend who has kids, and I was like, you got to run. When you talked about humanity, that's why I talked about that. I was at Disney on Ice today, and my daughter's texting me about watching my grandson on Wednesday. I'm like, I'm in a webinar. I'll text you back when I'm done, but that's the reality. We have real lives, and women, that work-life balance, but it's also strategy, and it's also coalescing around one another. I don't know what's in the water in Sacramento, but I'm like, it doesn't matter. We got to pull it together in a think tank. And so, Kelly, one of the things is that of understanding where our power is. And so it's coming together, and it says, sis, if not you, then who? Like for the Los Rios board, there's 3 seats that are available up for election. We have to know when elections are happening and preparation to run, and running even when someone tells you you shouldn't run. And they're telling you that because maybe they're fearful. They also are like, well, when you let 1 in, you can't let 2 in. And I'm like, where's that rule? Because, before it was all of them and none of us. And so why is it that we only let 1 person have a seat at the table? If all are Black women, if all the seats are held by Black women, what's the problem with that? If we're the most qualified and that we ran the race to win, we have to know what our win number is. That's something that I learned from Emerge California, from BWAPA, from California Black Women's Collective. What is our win number, and what is our billing coalition to get there? So Sacramento, we got work to do. Flo Jean Coffer is running for County Board of Supervisor, and so she will see if she's not on the call. I didn't scroll back through. I told you I'm not going to touch nothing with my computer, but if she's not on the call, I'm going to send her to the call. But she's out there building the coalition to win, and we have to build on the momentum, because even when we don't get to our goal, you really are still headed toward the goal.
Yeah, that's true. And I remember Pam, years ago, Pam said, I'm only going to serve 2 more terms and I need somebody. And she knew early that she needed someone to mentor. And when you called me, I said, have you talked to Pam? And you said she's already on my team. And that really is that whole succession planning. Mayor Warren, what do you think is the lessons that we need to instill in the next generation of leaders so they understand? Like you said, I decided that this particular group didn't serve the community the way that I believe they should serve the community. And so I'm going to move over to this side, even if, people dislike my choice. What do you think we need to tell the young people who have also said, I'm not feeling this side, but I'm not feeling this side either. I just don't know what side to feel, but I know I want change to happen. You're on mute. You're on mute. I hate when that happens.
The biggest thing is, I tell everybody, don't let anybody put a label on you, number one. I serve a predominantly Latino community, and for whatever reason, every time I get ready to run, all of a sudden I'm a hater of Latinos. I got a house full of Latinos living with me right now. My daughter-in-law's from Panama, my grandkids, and they're always on me about my Spanish. So I don't know how this hate thing came up. But, you know, they come up with all these excuses why you shouldn't vote for me. But when you're involved, people start to respect what you are involved with, and they want to be a part of it. We call ourselves Team Fontana, and we're feared. I'm not going to lie about it because we aggressively work as a team. And what we do is we get young people. I have mentored and ran so many people, but I always have people coming up to me with the weakest excuses. And I just don't have time for that. And I tell them, come back and talk to me later, honey. But I'll tell you a good example, my daughter. My daughter ran for water board. She only lost by 260 votes. And it was on a fluke that she ran. She didn't like the way the guy in that seat was treating the team. You know, he was acting stupid at meetings, and he has some racist he just got some problems going on. There's too many of us around him right now, and he's not doing well. And she got mad and said, it's time for me to run, Mom. And I said, okay. And she got on the phone and raised all kind of money. And that's the problem. You have to know how to ask people for money, and you have to know where to go to ask for the money. And that's what I'm teaching all these young people right now. People will help you if you are involved in issues that they care about. Just because you care about something doesn't mean everybody else does. And that's what I think the message has to be. You can't jump on the bandwagon for things that nobody else cares about. And that's what a lot of these young people keep doing. And they protest me, and they protest here. And then they come, and I said, in my meetings, when they come here, I said, have any of you even asked for an appointment to talk to me? Maybe I can help you. You guys up here talking all this noise? Wait till after the meeting and come talk to me. And when they leave my office, they be like, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were so cool. I didn't know we could talk. I said, yes. And you have to be involved in issues that people really care about. And a lot of this comes from being involved in education. I don't think most of our politicians realize when you tell people I care about your child, getting an education, having a future, having a job, having a life, having a home, people like you. They want to have you in power. But if you've been talking about all this other crap, and I'm not down in social justice, I think we need it every minute of the day, but it's how we do it. Because people, you out there crying and nobody's listening. You're telling me there's pollution in Fontana and the sky is blue. We got winds doing 70 miles an hour. I'll be looking up, I can't even keep a wig on in Fontana, okay? And they come to my meetings. You're killing our kids with warehouses. They don't even know what's in those warehouses. They're not all logistics. They're manufacturers. We got JPL and all these NASA in here doing research. People walking around with white coats and glasses making bank. And they up here talking about these are killing our children. Well, you know, you don't have to work there. That's the biggest problem we have out here. We don't know what we're talking about. Research and figure out what's really going on. I just got back from Qatar. I didn't even know where it was when they asked me, the embassy asked me to go there. It's next to Iran. It's the richest country in the world. I never seen so much money in my life. I got a chance to sit down with Qatar Investment, and they are 1 to 3 trillion in investing all over the world. And their message to me was, we invited you because you seem to be able to get along with everybody. You seem to want to work with everybody. Even if I don't like you, I'm going to smile. Because at some point, we're going to get along. That's my theory. And part of that is they invest in all these places you see around Fontana, California. They invest all in the United States. Now, why would I hate on that group? I want them to help our people. I want our kids to get these jobs in these warehouses. That's why as a mayor, I come up with all these initiatives. Healthy Fontana is a result of me looking terrible the first night I got appointed. And I said, I don't want to look like this no more. I'm gonna do the Oprah. I'm gonna put all our fat on a big old truck. And then here comes Kaiser telling me that women in Fontana had the worst heart rate and were dying like flies, and that all our children are getting diabetes. But I'm here to tell you, we improved that baseline in 6 years.
That's right.
But that's what people care about. Me going to the school board, carrying on and telling people our children need to have better scores. We need to make sure they can read and write. My colleagues on the Council of Acquanetta, we are not educators. I said, well, we better be, because that's what people care about. Because we're building jobs with all these places we're bringing out here. And by the way, the people that don't like the warehouse, they can't tell you what other jobs they can get people. Now, what we're seeing now is generational wealth as a result of those places, because here come mama getting a job. And I said, mama gets the job. Next thing you know, daddy working there, and then here come the kids. And now they all buying houses together. People need to know what people really care about. And you know what they care about? Do I have food? Do I have shelter? Now we're on steroids and helping homelessness. You know why? These aren't people that came from outer space and now they're homeless. They're your brother. They're your sons. They're your daughters. And they all are having problems. Me and the government got into it because I told him, I said, how are you going to give us funding for housing and we're not going to treat the symptom? And he looked me right in the eye. He said, Acquanetta, I hear you 100%. But don't start that mess with me because I'm doing care court. I'm going to bring them off the street the right way. But I need to say those things to some of these politicians. I had given up on Sacramento for a while because all I saw them was showing up in election trying to get people that walk precincts with them elected, not understanding what our needs were. But now I'm back into it because I need them to do their job. And I need them to help our cities instead of continually using us as an ATM machine. They got rid of redevelopment. People have no idea the impact that had on lives.
Yep.
So when these young people come to me and talk about I want to get started, because my daughter went full-fledged on water and she let people know we're suffering in our rates, we're suffering in the type of testing they're doing. She gave it to them. They scared of her. And all the money she ended up borrowing, she already raised back.
That's wonderful.
Because she has learned how to sit down and talk to people. I don't care who they are. When she was little, she'd be in my council meeting. Somebody says something negative about me. She'd be trying to grab a public comment card. And I tell the flirt, tell her Ija to go back and do her homework. And because she'd be in the back of the council chamber doing her homework because I don't have no husband. I didn't have no help. All I had was me and her and my sons. So I'm just saying, care about issues that people care about. And if you don't know what they care about, learn how to poll. I will not even run unless somebody's done some polling and they said, you know, you got a chance again. I am not sitting up here with the emperor. I won't be that emperor with no clothes on. I refuse to be. I want to know what people are thinking. And that's how you start. And once you figure that out, if you look at Jesse Armendariz, the supervisor, he listened to me. I mentored him. All those kids come through here with me, they all get elected because they listen. Or if they don't get elected the first time, I tell them, don't give up. All you did was start the salad. Now we're going to get your meat next. But you got to listen and you got to care about people and just knock on doors. Forget about they voted last time. They were in the top percentile. Because that's how I get more people registered just by dropping by and saying, hey, what do you think about the street sweeping this week? Is it working for you? What about the trash? I stay in my lane on issues I know they care about. That's what I tell young people. And not only young people, I tell old people that too, that have been running forever and never got elected. But I got them elected because they started listening.
That's right. That's right. Cassandra, I see you shaking your head as well. You're on mute too. But, you know, the reality is, you know, there's no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, just permanent interests when we start talking about politics. And I learned that, you know,
my best supporters hate me.
Right. Exactly. This is just it. You find that common goal. Yvonne Wheeler taught me that as she, you know, voted against or rallied everybody against me not to get appointed to a water board seat. She had the whole labor people on the other side, and she was my good friend. And I was like, I can't believe you did that to me. She was like, get over it, girl. You didn't know nothing about water.
And neither do the ones they elect.
Right. Neither did the one they elect either, too. I couldn't believe it. I was like, I know she didn't. I didn't talk to her for about 5 months. Cassandra, you know, we're going to wrap this conversation up, but, you know, like, what is the one thing you believe we should be doing for Black women right now in getting them more involved in local politics?
No, that is a very good question. And I think it's, well, one, like in Solano County, I see it because we have 16 Black women elected at 4 levels of government. So it is, one, like having folks appointed to the commissions and boards, but not just appointing people. And that's why I probably was shaking my head so much with Mayor Warren, because it's understanding what you're doing when you get in those seats, understanding the topic and being able to move things forward, because we know when we're in rooms, we tend to widen the lens. So, and we tend to look at things very differently because we carry those lived experiences, but also we could slide across some credentials if need be. So, would it really, to get more Black women, I would say it is having those honest conversations, those dinner room conversations, and looking at election cycles, two or three election cycles ahead, and not just activating when in the current election cycle. So for like my race, somebody asked me to run for city council at first, and I gave the same excuse. I have kids, I'm a caregiver, I work, and and she was like, well, I'll watch the kids for you, and I'll cook meals for the hubby if need be. We will sit him down too, right? And I ended up losing that race. And I was asked to run for board of supervisors, but it was because of the Black women at the various levels, knowing that I understood government. I used to work for a city and county, and that I understood the power that comes with county government is why they rallied behind and said, we think you should be in the seat. And we need to do that for 2 or 3 election cycles ahead. We have the upcoming election, and I always say it's a wash when we start organizing the same year. We have to start organizing for 28, for 30, and 32. So what seats, what commissions do we need to make appointments to? What skills do we need to refine and sharpen? And then who do we need to talk to? And another thing, while I was shaking my head so much with Mayor Warren, we walked and we shifted our my priorities based off of what we heard from community. But we need to continuously do that again, like before the election cycle. And not only did we speak one language, I'm proud to say we were trilingual, right? So we spoke community. So we were able to translate policy into community. And through my first language, which is African American Vernacular English. And then also he spoke Spanish and was able to translate that not only into English, but into policy. So those are some of the things I think we need to do for Black women in particular.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you.
Dr. Colette, what do you think we need to do?
We need to build coalitions and also just say what it is that we want. I mean, these kinds of conversations, exactly what Mayor Warren was saying and County Board of Supervisor James was saying, you know what, it is looking election cycles ahead. You cannot, you can run in, this primary, you can, but you're really getting your name out there. You may not have enough money. You're not going to have, the on-ramp to get there. I mean, there have been people who have won in that manner. They have that, but that is like not having a strategy. And so when we talk about, I see someone posted it in the chat that said they would be more than happy to participate in a think tank in Sacramento. And I love that. I'm a native Sacramento and I've been here my whole life. And there's a group of educators, Black Parallel School Board, Sac County Education Coalition, and they're talking about things about holding electeds accountable. But I'm like, what are you doing to, you've been in existence for 20 years and you're not looking at who's coming next. You're just talking about, oh, we're going to sue Sac City Unified. They don't got no money. They don't got no. Why are you suing them? Why not have? I don't understand. Okay, I said that out loud. Why are you suing them? And I went to a meeting and said they're like, we're holding people accountable. I'm the only elected in the room, and you told me basically to sit down. And I was like, I will not be back if all you want me to do is just show up and this is a photo op. I'm like, that cannot be. So it's building coalitions, but it's also looking at what's coming next and knowing. And then also moving it ahead. What is the agenda? But I love what people were saying, building coalitions and listening. We got to be listening and be able to pivot really quickly to say, what is it that people care about? What is it that people care about? Literacy is a workforce issue.
It sure is. Let me tell you, always from cradle to career. That's how we have
to career. Literacy is a workforce issue. Yeah. We need our kids learning how to read and read on grade level because they need to be able to get a job at some point.
Yep. Mayor Warren, to you, what can we do to get more Black women in the pipeline, regardless of party?
Let me tell you, I think first we need to stop running from each other. I'm just so honored to be here tonight. I never get invited with the Black girls. Every once in a while, Black History Month, here come everybody. But during the year, I don't see nobody.
Yeah.
I'm just being real about it. But it's okay because I come out and grab y'all. And I just won't take no for an answer. Right. But the thing is, first we need to learn how to trust each other and help each other and show them when each other knows. I'll tell you, when we had that street vendor thing and they called me the N-word, not one African-American group except for the NAACP, San Bernardino, Cheryl Brown and Hardy and Shay showed up to say, this is wrong. And we had Black pastors running around talking about we're not putting up with this and that, and to date have never addressed that issue. But don't let me jaywalk. Here they come. But I'm just saying we have to learn how to collectively talk. Even if we don't get along with each other, just say, what is one issue we can all work on? What can we stand behind each other and say we're not taking it anymore? They scatter y'all. They scatter us. And there's no reason to be. But look at the security guards around the world. They're all African-American practically. There has to be another job that we look forward to having.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, we got to really, if the stronger we become, the stronger we help our men folk. They need us and we need them. And I try to bring everybody along, but it is very difficult. But I'm going to tell you, I can't get out the door for the Latinos running to my door asking for help. But the brothers all look like I got something wrong with me or something. I don't know what it is, but I've been getting more of them to come around and talk. We just need to work closer together in love. We need to really demonstrate what we preach. If you're of faith, you got to have faith. You got to teach and keep people close to you. I keep my team tight. When we get ready to run, everybody works on everybody. I've had people walk out of my house when I announce who's running for something because they can't stand them. But they know they better bring their butt back and help work for them because otherwise they won't get their chance. You have to develop those coalitions. You have to include people around you that you can trust. And we can do that. We can bring that to the table to show how it used to be at that church annex when everybody got together and said, it's time for a change. We have to get back to our ways that worked. This new stuff, it ain't working. And learn how to use the computer and learn how to use ChatGPT. Honey, I just put my new suit for my State of the City coming up on Thursday. I could not find the right color shoes. I put that suit in there and they straight out told me what color shoes I needed. I already ordered them on Amazon.
That's right.
I'm just saying, cut down on the amount of work you have to do. Yeah. Because when I get in my little castle up here, because I got my grandkids here with me, they know don't come through that door if it's closed. Because that's Grammy time.
That's right.
And take care of yourself. Look good when you can. I can look like a hot mess when I run to the store on Saturday morning. But it doesn't bother me. And get out of your realm. I mean, I was on the Kardashians. That was a fluke because Travis Barker grew up in our town. If you're running for office, find out who grew up in your town and bring them back home. People they might not even care what you're doing, but the fact that you brought hometown heroes back that they like, They like you. There's so many ways you can get people to come around you. And I was an undercover boss, and I was fearful of being my political consultant said, don't do that. And I said, hey, I'm doing it because it gives you another perspective. But fight for your own. If you fight for your own, you're fighting for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know Supervisor James does that. She brings her Vallejo and people back. She be having all them brothers, you know, at big rap concerts and stuff from
Bring them back.
She's like, we gonna roll. And yes, I you know, Regina Brown and Cheryl Brown and them, you know, they talk about you all the time. And
Oh, I love them.
Right. Regina had me writing a quote when they called you the N-word and everything. So, you know, we tracking you. You know, we may not be on the same side politically, but I still track you because you're still a Black woman in power. And that's more important to me than any political party. So,
absolutely.
You know,
because I will help anybody. I don't care. I love everybody because I understand.
That's right. That's right. Miss Wendy, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just want to tell, because a lot of people don't know this, but I actually ran for city council 22 years ago. And I have to tell you, it was Mayor Acquanetta Warren, who was not mayor at the time. She was working in Upland. And she sat down and had a conversation with me. And I still ran. I lost. But what I learned was I wasn't ready. So I just went, and I'm admitting it. And I also learned I didn't want to be in public office. I had to learn my lane. And my lane was supporting people who ran for political office. But I too ended up running originally because at the time I was a single mom. I had gone through a lot of changes and I was challenged to run. They're like, well, if you don't like this, why don't you run? And I was a third generation Uplander, which a lot of people never knew. You know, they couldn't believe, they thought I just fell off a dump truck here or something. But it was Acquanetta Warren, who was at the time working in Upland, and she ended up having a conversation with me. I didn't like the conversation at the time. But she was real with me. And I ended up learning. So I just want to give her props because that was 22 years ago. So I've known of her work for a long time, and I have followed her too for a long time. And
but you know, Wendy, I tell you what, you're more powerful than you would have been in that seat, believe it or not. Your articles that you do, and wherever I go, women always, you know, Wendy, oh yeah. I'm just telling you, a lot of times God puts us in the right place at the right time. But I've always told people, thank God I get to be in the room because some white boys forget sometimes. And they'll say some things and somebody got to be there to defend all of us.
Yes.
I said, excuse me, I came in here Black, and as far as I know, God didn't move my color. So what was that all about?
So anyway, I just wanted to give her public props that sometimes people don't realize when people say that they help you, but this is 22 years ago. And we're still on this screen together today. So I just want to say thank you. And as you know, I didn't like what you had to tell me because I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. So when Cassandra James and everybody was saying that be ready, it's about, you got to be ready for when you're stepping out there because you are representing all of us. So anyway, thank you. God bless you.
And most Black women, once if they lose, they're more likely to be in debt and personal debt.
Right. That's unnecessary.
Even if they win, they're likely to be in.
I actually wasn't in debt. I actually raised like $40,000. And but I had a lot of sisters from LA who were helping me back then too.
Yes, you did. But I tell you, my daughter jumped in her race fast 2 weeks before filing. Had she done it earlier, so you have to be ready. But even that little girl kicked butt. I was like, goodness.
Yeah, and that's always wonderful. I love you, ladies. I think this was, Karina curated a wonderful panel this month. Again, Holly Mitchell, is someone that is a deep, close friend of mine in the professional space. And she always says when someone comes to her and says, I'm ready to run, I want to run. And she says, well, have you talked to the collective? Have you gone through Law Pi? Have you gone through Emerge? Like, she has this whole list of questions. And then she's like, what is your pathway to win? Who's supporting you, and how you gonna win? How you gonna raise money? And she's like, if you can't answer those questions, you're not ready.
You got to have a base. You
Yeah.
have to have a base.
Have to have a base. She like, and I remember Bishop Omer once saying in church, when people come to him and say, I want to be a pastor, and then they come back in a couple of weeks and they say, I've told you I want to be a pastor. And he says, okay. And they were like, what do I do next? And he said, well, I didn't tell you you wanted to be the pastor. God told you. So you need to be talking to God about it. And I never forget that. A lot of people say, I want to run. And if you want to run, you got to have it in you. You got to have a grit in you to really want to run, because it is not for the weak. No, especially as Black women. So, Karina, are we opening it up for questions now?
Yes, we are opening it up for questions. If anyone has a question, you can use the raise your hand feature. You can also put your question in the chat. I see that we have had a couple comments come in the chat. So if there's no questions, I'll just read a couple comments just for, okay. All right, we have our questions coming. I love it. Okay, I'm going to start with Lavina. I seen your hand raised first.
Hi, thank you, everyone. This is so amazing. Good seeing you, Mayor Warren. Cassandra, I've seen you in a couple of different webinars, and each time I hear you speak, it's always motivational. I just don't know why we have not connected before now. But anyway, the conversation's amazing. Kellie, you do an amazing job moderating, and your questions are so entwined with my thoughts, which leads to, and I'm not sure who would answer this, maybe Mayor Warren. You talk about, gosh, there's so many things that are happening here. Like us being in the space where we're empowered to be in the room where it happens, right? Which is what I think we're really trying to say. We need us in the room. When we are faced with running against each other, which I've seen maybe a little too much, is there something that we're saying as a collective group that could help us better understand when that is appropriate and when it's absolutely a tool of the, obviously the other side trying to diminish and disempower us from being successful? And I know that happened in a couple of scenarios. Yes. And so I just don't even know if that's a conversation that's being had, because I don't want to blame one person or the other, because oh, God told me to run, and you can't argue with that. So
I have this situation about 2 months ago. We had a big discussion with somebody, and you and I've seen that happen, especially in the IE. I think you have to ignore it. Let me tell you why. If you really want to run and you have made a pathway, honey, run on, because I'm going to win. And I've had that. Every time I run, and since I've run, whatever reason, people think if they put 4 or 5 other Black people in the race, I ain't got a chance.
Right.
And at first I was freaked out. My first time that happened, it was like 3 brothers and 4 sisters. I was like, who else gonna jump in here? The dog? And I kept my eye on that prize, and I didn't worry about them. I did not worry about them, and I did like 59%, and it was like 10 or 12 people in that race. And through the years, the last time I ran, there was only 3, a sister and one of the guys on my council, and I just stayed focused. All the Latino, the white people were hollering, oh my God, there's 2, and even the Black people, there's 2 of you. There's no way you're gonna win, and I just stayed focused.
And so would that be the universal tone? Because I wish we could discourage that from happening, but I guess that just is impossible.
Can't. As a matter of fact, you hurt your cause if you try.
Okay.
You really do. I just think everybody needs to stand up on their own 2 feet and fight to the end.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you.
That's my thoughts.
And we only do that because you see how many governors candidates are running for governor.
Can you believe this?
Yeah.
This is I should have ran.
You should have ran, girl. Listen.
I mean, I've been telling everybody, you should have ran. And then I say, I should have ran too. All of us should have ran.
It's so many, and they like unqualified too. I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
got
mean, it's like scary.
where you come from?
Right. So you're saying they do it on that side of the fence as well?
Yeah.
Oh,
right?
honey, let me tell you.
They
You
do
need
it
to be in some of those central committee meetings when they be deciding what they're going to support. And you look at that list and they don't even care. We're the only ones that worry about that stuff. And I get tired of people telling me, whatever you do, don't take out another sister. If the sister ain't performing for what we need to get done, the sister got to go too. Period.
Okay. Fair enough. I like that. Thank you. Thank you all.
Miss Darlene.
Yes, thank you all, ladies. This has been such a great webinar, and all of the information that you guys have given. Happy for this space. Mayor Warren, Supervisor James, Dr. Mathews, Wendy, you guys are phenomenal. It's ironic that I'm even here in this meeting. I actually just signed up for the collective membership 2 days ago. And I got an email. I just happened to check my email. I was finishing up an assignment and just happened to check my email about a meeting that was happening at 6:30. And then I'm like, so I looked to my husband, I was like, oh, there's a meeting happening at 6:30. So I was vacillating on whether or not to join because I need to prepare dinner, talking about balancing. But I'm so happy. He was like, I'll do dinner. I'm so happy that I joined. In addition to signing up for the collective, I also just applied to sit on 2 commissions, one for the service, Health and Human Service in District 5, that council, and then the Developmental Disability Planning and Advisory Council. So doing that, just a little background, I work in a space currently where we are a trade association, so we do lobbying for our members. And so a lot of background work, but I led a sponsor bureau for my agency in which I drafted all of the language and of course had to go through the whole process, the stakeholder process, all the way to the end. It did get signed by the governor, AB 1172. So super happy to participate in that. But while doing that, I realized that there is work that, Black amazing women are doing, but it's background work. And I'm happy to do work in the background because my service is unto God and not unto men. But I also recognize the importance of standing in my excellence and also leading from the front and being more public and more visible and impacting change in the community. So that is where I am now, currently getting my doctorates. I'll be done in 2027. My doctorate's in law and policy. So interested in continuing conversations and thinking about how to, get more of us in this space, in the field, in public policy, and just think about how I can contribute more to my community. So I really appreciate the conversation. I just had to tell you ladies that, and how timely it is. And I look forward to ongoing conversations with the group. Thank you.
Thank you. And you're in Sacramento?
I'm in Sacramento, yes.
Yeah, make sure you connect with Dr. Colette, but also connect with are these county appointments or city appointments?
County, yeah, so I'm in District 5. So the board of supervisor for District 5 would be the one that appoints to these 2 particular councils that I applied for, yes.
So you definitely want to engage that supervisor.
Yes.
And have huge, I mean, like I will get appointed to something or someone will say, get on it, but it needs to be something you're really passionate about. Because if you're not, it's not even worth it.
Yes.
But the other point is it's that person, right? It's that supervisor that you have to connect with.
Yes.
To get that appointment. So
appreciate that. And the reason why I chose those two, I'm very passionate about it. I actually work in the space of developmental disabilities. In addition to what I do there, I also actually help my husband build his private practice. He's a therapist, so he does mental health counseling. So definitely interested and passionate about, health and human services, coordinating services. I sit on different committees, Lanterman Housing Alliance, the Office of Administration hearings. So I do have professional committees that I sit on, but more wanting to step out to do things more on my personal time as well.
Yeah. So get with Dr. Colette and definitely join BWAPA in Sacramento. Because
because the background, you said just the background is the backbone.
Yes.
Because it's informing. Tomorrow I serve on the Sac State Foundation board, and I review everything, and I look for where is the information coming from, because just because I serve on the board, I'm like, what, the decisions that you make, you need to be informed. And then on the Los Rios Board of Trustees, I'm like, where's the policy? My famous question is this policy or is this practice? Is it just because we've been doing it this way the whole time, but the policies, and then how do we, where did this policy come from? And is this an archaic policy that we need to strengthen now that we look at where we are right now with, artificial intelligence, classes that are online? When we look at, DEIB work is not going away. And I don't even say it that way. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Which word do you have a problem with? Because when we reduce it down to an acronym, because we're famous for that. But Darlene, I did note your name, and there's ways to get a hold of me if you need. But County Board of Supervisors, I think, Flo Jean Carper is drawing attention to what does the County Board of Supervisor actually do, and that these people make a lot of money and make a lot of decisions in Sacramento. People don't know because you've done a lot. I know who's on County Board of Supervisors in Vallejo, and I don't Sacramento. These people are just policy wonks doing work. And until Cerna said he wasn't going to run anymore, people thought this is what we have tied up. But then it made you look at pictures of who these people are, but who's informing them is very important. So Darlene, and your doctorate too is important. I only use my doctorate, and people say it's a flex, but my student loan says it's not a flex. It is. It is what it is, and I know why I got it and who's doing.
That's right. She said that's my calling card. Dr. Colette Harris-Mathews. All right, Karina, I'm gonna hand it back to you.
Okay, I am here. Thank you so much. Thank you. I did just want to see really quickly. I see that it says question regarding all schools. There's a lot of problems with schools dealing with bullies, mean children, and those who constantly disrupt the students from learning. This is a big concern for teachers. Teachers don't have any protection from seriously getting hurt. This has been an amazing meeting. Mayor Warren, you are amazing. We need the high desert to get more minorities in office that will help everyone, not just their own. So I'm not sure there was a question attached, but I did just want to bring that up. And if Susan, you wanted to elaborate if there was a question, but otherwise we can move. Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you, the panel, for your insights, your passion as you spoke about. You definitely heard your passion in your storytelling, in your delivery. So I see we're over just a tad bit. I am going to just move quickly into our joy practice, just so that we can just experiment that quick moment of joy. This practice is called Joy, Love, and Local Power. As we have just ended on a Valentine's Day, just come out of Valentine's Day, we are all reminded that love isn't just romantic. It is also love for ourselves, love for our communities, and love that pushes us to show up, to speak up, and to be mindful and staying rooted. So tonight, as we just quickly ground ourselves in joy, because joy is also a form of power, I just have this really brief affirmation for us to tell ourselves to keep us reminded day in and day out of just how love does keep us going. If you just place one hand over your heart and take a deep breath in and out, you can repeat each line or just listen and receive them. And that is, I am rooted in love. I am powerful where I am planted. And I choose joy as I build change. Announcements. I am going to, in the chat here, I totally missed putting this in my lineup, but I did just want to flag that we do have our legislative day in Sacramento coming up next month on Monday, March 16th. That is a time where we collectively, as Black women, are going to Sacramento, and we are speaking, advocating on the issues that are important to us. So I am just going to put that link in the chat for you to be sure to register and get all of your details, learn more details about that. That's coming next month. If this is your first time joining, or if not, and you've missed any of our previous conversations, you can still go back and experience them all. You would just scan this QR code, and I'm also going to put the link in here for that, for you to be able to go back and catch those sessions. Here we go. All right, so please be sure to go back and catch any of our sessions. Dr. Flo name came up a few times. We did have her on earlier last year, so please be sure to go back and catch our session with her. We also have our Restful Resistance community WhatsApp chat, where we have updates and affirmations and community events that you can also feel free. If you have any events that are coming up or any affirmations, you can also just drop them in that chat. And to join, I am going to put that here as well. And then also become a member. Become a member, be a part of our membership. It is our sister circle, our queendomhood. It's a safe space where you learn about these events, where you have access to a supportive ecosystem and professional development opportunities. So please, please, please join and become a member. And then lastly, we do have, if you are looking for an event to celebrate Black History Month, we welcome you to celebrate Black History Month with us. We will be having a ROTA registration kickoff with the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, which also includes a gumbo cook-off, spades, whist, and dominoes tournaments, a very friendly competition. This is our second year having it. And also you can come to enjoy music, soul food, and community vibes. And I am going to close on that note and put all these links in. Yes, Michelle. If you're speaking, you're on mute.
Yes, thank you. You know, everything was just so phenomenal and everything. I noticed that the domino, the gumbo cook-off and all that, and the contest and everything at Regency West.
Yes.
So I was typing in the collective Black and everything to look how to purchase a ticket, a single ticket. I don't want to be a participant in dominoes and everything. Just hang out, probably help register vote, just get my grind on and networking with the community. So is there a way that you can email me a straight link that I could just tap to get the person? Thank you, Precious. Oh, it went away. Okay.
No, and I will put it in the follow-up as well. I will include all of these links in the follow-up email that we'll send to you.
Thank you, Precious. Thank you. Thank you, Queen.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, well, that is all that I have tonight. I just want to thank you all very, very much again for joining. We can't have these conversations without you, so we do appreciate you participating this evening, and we hope that you have a rest of a great evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.